My name's Richard Michael Plisko, Richard Plisko. I was born in Masontown, Pennsylvania in January 8th of 1943. I was there till I was 17 years old. I had two grandmothers. Both of my grandfathers died before I was born, and my mom and dad, and I had two brothers, Tom and Dave. We lived close to a wooded area where my parents' house was, so when we were kids, I had two neighbors, Hubbo and Gary Mahalik. In the days when we didn't have nothing to do, we would roam in the woods, just make paths, and we found some old caves out there we'd explore when we was there and do a little fishing down at the Monongahela River that flowed down through there. Went to the Catholic school for 5 years, All Saints Catholic School, and then I transferred over to the public school, and that was Masontown High School. And I took physics, algebra 1, 2, geometry, trigonometry, biology, chemistry. I took all the classes. Passed them, barely, but I passed them. We didn't have a lot of opportunities like you do today. I mean, the rich people, their parents could afford to send them to college. The poor people, our parents were, my dad was a coal miner, and they didn't have much, so when we graduated, about a month later we went into service. It was in the end of May of 1960. First of all, you had to go to basic training. That was down in Lackland, Texas, where they yell at you every day and make you march, and there's no schools or nothing down there. So, and then after basic training, we went to Chanute, Illinois, and that was the tech school. They called us personal equipment specialists. We had all the equipment that the pilots use. We took care of the life rafts, the parachutes, the helmets, and any of the survival gear that was given to the pilots. Our shop took care of any needs that they had.
These Marines have been assigned the job of protecting the base against any Cuban threats that might arise during the present crisis. They'll be on a 24-hour alert, a first line of defense.
Back in the Cuban Missile Crisis, when that came about, we were downtown partying a little bit, and we started hitchhiking back to Selfridge. And at that time, I don't think the car wasn't working or something, so we were hitchhiking, and an Air Force staff car come by and picked us up, and I told myself, how in the heck did they know where we were, you know? So they jumped in there, and I was with J.L. Palmer, and he worked with the 106 jets, and they told him to pack his gear up, that they were taking the F-106s down to Florida. And then we were in the backup thing, so we went down to Bunker Hill in Indiana, where they had the base. That's where they were storing all the bombers during this Cuban Missile Crisis. Well, we snuck out on the base out there and found out that they were putting nuclear bombs on all them 106s. I mean, too bad we didn't have a camera to get a picture, because I'm sure nobody will ever say that existed. But they sent 36 fighters down to Florida. They were going to wipe that island off the face of the earth, is what it was going to be. And then the big bombers were back to B-52s and B-48s and the B-58s. Yeah, they were down at Bunker Hill, and they were all nuclear armed, and they were parked down there. And there were so many of them that came in that they would take them off the runway and just park them out in the field. And then the crisis that we had, one came in with a nuclear bomb on it. They couldn't get the landing gear down, so they foamed the runway, and they'd come in bellied up, you know. But they say there's so many safety devices on them nuclear weapons, but we didn't know that at the time. We thought we were all goners. Then I was discharged in 1964. When I was in the service, they overpaid me. So they found out that they overpaid me, so I had 3 months without no money coming in. With no money coming in, They were hiring summer helpers in Local 58, and they paid you 50% of what the journeymen were getting, and we were working overtime, and I made more money in a week there than I made in 6 months in the service. So I thought, well, that would be a good profession to get into. And then I applied and got in the apprenticeship. That's how that came about, and that's how I got into Ann Arbor, became an electrician, and lasted there for 40 years. I met your grandmother, Carol, in 1965. I was out on service. I went down there and one of the friends of mine, Charlie, we met him, her and her girlfriend, so we asked them for a date, and they said, yeah, so they gave me the address. Well, I put the address in my suit pocket. Well, I took the jacket to the cleaners, and when I came back, the address was gone. We drove up there. We were supposed to meet him while it was dark, so we went around knocking on everybody's door that had a porch light on. And we're knocking on these doors, and people were trying to help us. We were telling them who we were looking. We didn't even remember their names. That's how big it was. And we finally, after we knocked on about 10 houses, and we didn't get nowhere, except some lady wanted to fix us up with her two daughters. We said, well, we're going to keep trying. If we don't have no luck, we'll come back. Don't talk. But anyway, and we were just leaving, and when we were leaving out, this car backs out in front of us, and it was them too. So we blew the horn at them and tried to tell them what happened. And that's how we started dating. And we had one son named Rick. Man, we took him to play baseball, but watch his football games when he played, whatever he wanted to do. And, you know, I kind of left it up to him. I wasn't a real pushy parent. And we took him up north with us all the time when we were up there. We used to go up to Tawas, to the lake up in Tawas, and let him swim out there, and they had a playground there, and A&W root beer, and we'd stop and get the root beer on the way home with us. You know, whatever he wanted to eat, and let him play in the lake, and they had all the slides and everything. It was easy to watch him there because the water was shallow to where, you know, where you could take your eyes off of him for a few minutes.
Under your company, what are some of your top locations?
Well, we take walks. That's one thing that I still do. I feed the deer up north. One thing I do, and the turkeys. I like to watch them much. I still like to hunt and fish. My big hobbies. And
We actually might covered everything.
yeah, pretty much that I know.
Yeah.
Probably a few stories I missed, but
Yeah.
had enough.